Hello friends, today we will start lesson number 2, polynomials. In this lesson, following points are to be studied. First, what is polynomial and example? That is actually we have learnt in 9th standard. Second, degree of polynomial, it is also we know. Third thing is types of polynomial. Actually we know monomial, binomial and trinomial, but in this standard we need to learn linear polynomial, quadratic polynomial and cubic polynomial and their general forms. And then what is zero of polynomial, and last point is geometrical meaning of zero of polynomial. So first we will start with polynomial. What is polynomial? Actually, polynomial is an algebraic expression in which power of each variable is whole number. असं अल्जेब्रिक एक्सप्रेशन की ज्याच्यामध्ये प्रत्येक व्हेरिएबलची पॉवर ही होल नंबर पाहिजे. दॅट मीन्स power of the variable should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. It should not be fraction, that is 1 upon 2. It should not be negative. If it is fraction, if the power is fraction, power of variable is fraction, power of variable is negative, then it is not a polynomial. So what is polynomial? We can explain with the example. Suppose let us consider example of polynomial. X square plus 3x minus 7 is a polynomial because look at the power of each variable. It is 2, which is whole number. Here it is 1, it is whole number, and actually in front of x 7 it is x raised to 0, but we are not writing this x raised to 0 because x raised to 0 is nothing but 1. So here it is 0. So power of each variable is whole number, that's why it is a polynomial. One more example, root 3 x cube plus 5 upon 2 x minus 7 upon 3. So look at the power of the variable, each power, प्रत्येक variable ची power बघा. x ची power आहे 3, इथे x ची power आहे 1, कोइफिशियंट root 3 आहे. No, it is not a whole number. Coefficient 5 upon 2 आहे. It is not a whole number, but the condition is related to power of the variable, and power of the variable must be a whole number. Here the power of the variable is 3, 1 and 0, that's why it is also a polynomial. If we consider this example, 3 root x plus 5x minus 8. Now when there is a root x, that means we can rewrite it as 3x raised to 1 upon 2 plus 5x minus 8. Now look at the power of x. It is a fraction, it is not a whole number, that's why this is not a polynomial. One more example which is not a polynomial, we can write like this. Suppose 5 upon x cube minus 3x square plus 7 upon 3. So here x cube is at the denominator. When we take it at the numerator, it will be 5x raised to minus 3. When you take the whole term to the numerator, the power of the variable becomes negative. So 5x raised to minus 3 minus 3x square plus 7 upon 3. It is a whole number, but this is not a whole number. it is integer, negative integer, which is not a whole number. Therefore, this is not a polynomial. This everything is we have studied in standard 9th, but we have made revision to some extent. Now, what is degree of polynomial? Degree of polynomial is the highest power of the variable in the polynomial is called degree of polynomial. Actually, this is also we have learnt in standard 9th. Again, we will revise. Suppose p of y, q of y असे नाव दिलं जातं पॉलिनॉमियलला. q of y, r of x, q of x, p of x, like this. Suppose any polynomial p of x is equals to x raised to 5 minus 3x square plus 8x minus 9. Then highest power of variable is 5. Therefore, 5 is degree of this polynomial. Suppose p of y, that is the polynomial in variable y. Let us take an example, y cube minus 5y raised to 6 plus 3. So here the highest power of variable y is 6. Therefore, 6 is degree of polynomial. So in this way we can write any polynomial and we can find out degree of the polynomial. Now, very important point, types of polynomial. See, now these points which we are going to study now, आपण जे आता शिकणार आहोत, types of polynomial, zero of polynomial and geometric meaning of the zero of polynomial, it is now in our textbook in this standard. 10th standard मध्ये आपल्याला हे पूर्णपणे शिकायचं आहे. लिनियर पॉलिनॉमियल, क्वाड्रेटिक पॉलिनॉमियल. ॲक्च्युअली क्युबिक पॉलिनॉमियलचा अभ्यास नाही आपल्याला, तरी पण आपण त्याचा जनरल फॉर्म फक्त बघणार आहोत. नाउ लेट अस स्टार्ट विथ very important topic now, linear polynomial. Now, what is meant by linear polynomial? A polynomial of degree 1, a polynomial of degree 1 is called linear polynomial. Degree 1 by highest power of the variable has to be 1 only, then it is linear polynomial. Example, 3x minus 5 upon 2 y plus 8 root 3 m minus 3m minus 3, I can write only 3m or 3x. So these all are polynomials with degree 1. So these all are examples of linear polynomial. In general, we can write the general form of linear polynomial is ax. See, what is the general form? General form of linear polynomial. General form of linear polynomial is ax square ax plus b, where a and b are any real number. A is the coefficient of x and b is constant. So a may be any real number, b may be any real number, but a should not be 0. So a not equals to 0 is the 0 of linear, ax plus b is the general form of linear polynomial. Then we will study quadratic polynomial. What is quadratic polynomial? A polynomial of degree 2. Polynomial of degree 2 is called quadratic polynomial. Examples we can write: 3x square, it is a monomial but it is a quadratic polynomial. 5 upon 2 y square plus 3y. Again here it is a binomial even though it is a quadratic polynomial. 5y square minus 3 upon 2y plus 7 upon 3. Again it is a trinomial but the degree of polynomial is 2, therefore it is a quadratic polynomial. Now we can write general form of quadratic polynomial. General form of quadratic polynomial. It is ax square plus bx plus c, where a is the coefficient of x square, b is the coefficient of x, and c is constant. But here a should not be 0. If a is 0, then ax square becomes 0, and now it will not be a quadratic polynomial. Therefore, we can finally say general form of quadratic polynomial is ax square plus bx plus c, where a comma b comma c are any real numbers and a should not be 0. This is the general form of quadratic polynomial. Now cubic polynomial, only general form and some examples. Cubic polynomial: the polynomial having degree 3. डिग्री 3 असेल तर ती पॉलिनॉमियल असते क्यूबिक पॉलिनॉमियल. नाउ क्यूबिक पॉलिनॉमियलचे एक्झाम्पल्स आपण लिहू शकतो 3 किंवा -3 y क्यूब 3 upon 7 x क्यूब minus 7x 3x minus 7 plus 8x cube. So these are the examples of cubic polynomial. Each polynomial has a degree 3. That's why every polynomial in these examples is cubic polynomial. What is the general form of cubic polynomial? We can write the general form ax cube plus bx square plus cx plus d. See, a is the coefficient of x cube, b is the coefficient of x square, and c is the coefficient of x, and d is constant term. But a should not be 0, because if a is 0, then ax cube becomes 0 and it will not be a cubic polynomial. Only this much, or these 2 points only we will learn. We have to learn linear polynomial and quadratic polynomial in detail. Now next point is very important point. What is zero of polynomial? Zero of polynomial is the value of variable for which the value of polynomial becomes 0 is zero of polynomial. If you take any linear polynomial, suppose x plus 5, if this is a polynomial p of x having degree 1, it is a linear polynomial. And if you take x is equals to minus 5, the value of polynomial becomes p of minus 5 becomes minus 5 plus 5 which is equals to 0. ह्या पॉलिनॉमियलची व्हॅल्यू x ची व्हॅल्यू -5 ठेवल्यामुळे 0 बनले. If we put -5 in place of x, then the value of polynomial becomes 0, and that's why x is equals to -5 is the 0 of this polynomial. So in this way we will find the zeros of linear polynomial as well as zeros of quadratic polynomial in the next exercise. What is in the first exercise is graphical form or graphical meaning, or we can say geometrical meaning of the zeros of polynomial. This is the point which we will cover in the exercise 1.1. Last point, geometrical meaning. What is the meaning, geometrical meaning of the zeros of polynomial? Let us consider this point. If y is equals to p of x is any polynomial, maybe linear polynomial, maybe quadratic polynomial, or maybe cubic polynomial, then if you try to draw the graph, it will be like this. This is x-axis, this is y-axis, origin, and if you plot the graph for this polynomial, if it is linear polynomial, it will be a straight line like this. If quadratic polynomial, the graph will be like this, or maybe like this. So the shape of the graph for quadratic polynomial is like this, u. So ulta u किंवा ulta u. So this is called parabola. So the shape of the graph for quadratic polynomial is parabola, may be opening upward or may be opening downward. And if you take the cubic polynomial, the graph might be like this. It is called spiral. See, graph of linear polynomial is always a straight line. Graph of quadratic polynomial is parabola. It may be opening upward or it may be opening downward, and graph of cubic polynomial is spiral. Now actually we need to find how many zeros these polynomials have. So if the graph or the line or the graph of given polynomial intersect the x-axis, आणि तो ग्राफ एक्स ॲक्सिसला किती ठिकाणी इंटरसेक्ट करतो, द नंबर ऑफ पॉइंट्स at which the graph intersect the x-axis, not y-axis, and those number of points are number of zeros. Now look at this graph. It is a graph of linear polynomial. It cuts here only one at one point, and that's why the number of zeros for this polynomial is 1. Now look at this graph. It cuts the x-axis in 2 points, here and here. So this graph has 2 zeros. If this is a parabola opening downward, look at this graph. It does not intersect the x-axis. So that's why this graph has no zeros, or this polynomial has no zeros. Now look at this graph. It cuts the x-axis once, twice, and thrice, and therefore this graph or this polynomial has 3 zeros. So this is the question for MCQ. 1 मार्क साठी हा क्वेश्चन येतो बऱ्याच वेळेस. ग्राफ दिला जातो तुम्हाला, ग्राफ इज गिवन, and from the graph we need to write how many zeros this polynomial has. Sometimes which are those zeros also asked. Suppose here it is -1, -2, -3, 1, 2 and 3. So x axis ला -2 मध्ये इंटरसेक्ट करतो. Therefore x is equals to -2 is the zero of this polynomial. How many zeros? 1 zero. What is that zero? -2. Here suppose it is like this. Let us -1, -2, 1, 2 and 3 with the origin. Now this graph cuts the x-axis in 2 points, this and this. Therefore this polynomial has 2 zeros. And what are those zeros? X is equals to -2 and x is equals to +3 are the zeros of this polynomial. Here graph does not intersect the x-axis, therefore this polynomial has no zeros. And as this graph intersect the x-axis, this polynomial has 3 zeros. Which are those zeros? Let us come -1, -2, -3, 1, 2 and 3. So we can write x is equals to -1, x is equals to -3 and x is equals to 3 are the zeros for this polynomial. So in this way we will finish the theoretical part for exercise 1.1. Now we will start exercise 1.1. Very simple exercise, only 1 mark. This exercise is only for 1 mark. Graphs are given and from the graph we need to find number of zeros only. झिरोज फक्त किती झिरोज आहेत ते सांगायचंय, कुठले झिरोज आहेत ते सांगायची गरज नाहीये या एक्सरसाइज मध्ये. बट इन एग्जाम समटाइम्स झिरोज आर ऑल्सो आस्क्ड. So we will start exercise 1.1. I will write full write up for question number, sub question number 1 and sub question number 2. What is it? First graph is like this. This is y axis, this is x axis, and the graph of y is equals to p of x चा graph आहे हा. So this is the graph. How many zeros this polynomial has? So from the graph we can see this graph does not intersect x-axis at a single point also. So that's why this polynomial has no zeros. So how to write the answer? As the graph does not intersect x-axis, therefore this polynomial has no zeros. Very simple. Sub question number 2, graph is like this. Horizontal line is x-axis, vertical line is y-axis, and the graph is given like this. It is a spiral actually. Like this. This is the graph. The graph intersects the x-axis at only one point. Therefore, this polynomial has only 1 zero. So how to write the answer? As the graph intersect x-axis at only one point, therefore this polynomial has only 1 0. We will see other graphs. Sub question number 3. This is like this. See, this graph intersect the x-axis here, here and here. So how to write the answer? As the graph intersect x-axis in how many points? 3 points. This polynomial has how many zeros? 3 zeros. Sub question 4. Now I will write only number of zeros. This is like this. It is parabola opening upward. Now this graph intersect the x-axis in 2 points. So polynomial has how many zeros? 2 zeros. Fifth sub question. It is like this. Now see, this graph intersect the x-axis in 4 points. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So answer is 4 zeros. And the last question, last sub question is here. We can see, I will write here. Fifth or sixth, it is sixth question. The graph is like this. Y-axis, x-axis, and the graph is here. It touches the x-axis and again it touches x-axis. Actually it touches here at only 1 point. So this 1, 2 and 3. So answer is 3 zeros. Here ends the exercise 1.1. Here this exercise is only for 1 mark. Find the number of zeros for given polynomial. In the exam or in MCQ, graphs are given or graph is given, and from that graph we need to write number of zeros for that polynomial. See, here ends the exercise 1.1. In next exercise we need to find the number of zeros and what are those zeros for mainly quadratic polynomial, not cubic, not linear. Only we will focus on quadratic polynomial only in the exercise 1.2. How to find the zeros of the quadratic polynomial, and again we need to verify the relation, what relation between coefficients and number of zeros or the zeros. So zeros and coefficients यांच्यामधलं रिलेशन पण व्हेरीफाय करायचं हे पुढच्या एक्सरसाइज मध्ये आहे. सो इन द नेक्स्ट पिरियड वी विल कव्हर एक्सरसाइज 1.2 theoretical part as well as exercise 1.2. Till then, goodbye, thanks.